Do Amish women shave their legs in secret? Some do, but the reason isn't what most outsiders assume. In certain conservative communities, shaving can be interpreted as vanity. Yet some women still do it privately. And according to accounts shared inside these communities, getting discovered can become about something much bigger than a razor: obedience. But the strangest part isn't whether they shave. It's why something so ordinary can become something you hide. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm the voice on the other side of that life, bringing you the stories that reveal how complicated Amish reality actually is. Before we go further, understand this. Asking whether Amish women are allowed to shave may be the wrong question entirely. The Amish aren't governed by one worldwide rulebook. There is no single Amish pope issuing decrees about leg hair. Practices differ significantly between affiliations, districts, and even individual families. What holds true in a Swartzentruber settlement in Ohio may not apply in a more progressive community in Indiana, and that's exactly what makes the question complicated. Let's start with modesty, because in the Amish world, modesty governs everything. We were taught that our bodies are temples of humility. The Ordnung, the unwritten code that guides every stitch of our lives, emphasizes erasing the self, no individuality. That's why the dress code exists. Solid colors, no decorative buttons, head coverings that hide a woman's hair. A woman's hair is sacred, tied to her submission to God and her husband. It's never cut, never styled, never shown in public. Covered, contained, controlled. Here's where the question gets complicated. There may not actually be an explicit rule against shaving. The church doesn't have a written ordinance about leg hair. They've dictated the width of your hat brim, they've specified the type of buggy wheel you can use, but leg hair? It exists in a gray fog of a concept called Gelassenheit. That word means yielding, submission, putting the community before yourself. And the elders interpret that to mean anything drawing attention to your physical form, anything suggesting vanity, is a sin. Think about the logic. If you pluck your eyebrows, you're altering the natural state God gave you. You're saying, "Notice me." That's a swift path to confession and kneeling prayer before the congregation. But what about a woman who removes hair from her legs in complete privacy? Is that vanity if no one ever sees it? See the crack in the wall? That's where something as ordinary as a razor becomes complicated. For a girl raised in a particularly strict household, that tension could become deeply personal. There's a concept within Amish teaching called inner pride. It's the quiet killer of humility. You can look perfectly plain on the outside. You're dressed the right shade of dull blue. Your hair scraped back so tightly beneath your cap that it gives you a headache. But inside, you might be delighting in the fact that underneath this sack of a dress, you have smooth, soft legs. You might be harboring a feeling that feels luxurious. And that inner satisfaction, that private knowledge that you've conformed to an outside standard of beauty, can be framed as a spiritual threat. Some stricter bishops preach that the intention to beautify the flesh, even unseen, is the first step on the path to the English world. First, you secretly groom yourself. Then you want a flush toilet. Then your soul is lost to the mall and the movie theater. But here's what surprises many outsiders. The pressure doesn't only come from sermons. The pressure can also come from inside the home. Some young women face another anxiety rarely discussed, wondering what a future husband might expect. We weren't supposed to think about physical attraction. Marriage was a holy union, a practical partnership. Yet men, sheltered as they were, still formed expectations, still carried images in their heads of what a wife was supposed to feel like. Picture this. I'm standing in the kitchen, hands deep in bread dough, and the older girls are whispering. Their voices are so low the flour doesn't stir. They're talking about the first night, about the fear. And one of them, a girl preparing to marry, leans in, her face pale, and says quietly, "I heard that if you don't take care of things down there, he might be disgusted. He might tell the deacon it's not a fit marriage." Imagine that pressure. On one side, God watches your heart for the sin of vanity. On the other, you face the prospect of a husband potentially rejecting your body because it's too natural. Stuck between heavenly judgment and earthly rejection, a woman finds herself in a silent, private negotiation. And that negotiation involves a sliver of metal. Now consider a practical problem outsiders rarely think about: privacy. In a large Amish household, finding even a few uninterrupted minutes alone could be difficult. Bedrooms are shared. The bathroom, if you have an indoor one, is high traffic and time sensitive. You can't take a 30-minute shower. Hot water is limited. Someone is always knocking. So where does a girl go? Perhaps the wash basin in the cellar, late at night, or that cold hour just before dawn, when the cows need milking but the kitchen is still quiet. The cold cellar. Goosebumps on bare skin. The scrape of metal against dry skin because you can't risk the scent of shaving cream. no lotion afterward. The sting, the nicks on your ankles, hidden beneath long black stockings all day while you haul water and pull weeds. This created a silent understanding between women, a glance between mother and daughter, unspoken. You'd help your younger sister with the back of her knees, and you wouldn't say a word. You'd lock eyes, a pact of silence. Because if your father discovered it, the interrogation wouldn't be about vanity alone. It would be, where did you learn this? Who told you this was acceptable? The deeper offense wasn't the act itself, it was the conspiracy, the proof that you had a mind of your own. And that is perhaps the most threatening thing of all to a patriarchal order, a woman thinking for herself. And some mothers may have understood that tension better than they were willing to admit. Now I want to ask you something. If nobody can see a grooming choice, is it still vanity? Yes or no? Put your answer in the comments. I'm genuinely asking, but being discovered doesn't necessarily mean what you think. In some districts, this private tension could surface during the bishop's visit. When church leaders examine each family's spiritual health, certain ministers might ask broad questions designed to probe for vanity. A teenage girl could find herself facing an uncomfortable silence, weighing whether a private grooming choice needs to be confessed. The pressure in that room, parents watching, younger siblings present, could feel unbearable. Depending on the district and the leadership, such a confession might lead to kneeling prayer before the congregation. But practices vary widely, and not every community handles these matters the same way. To understand what that pressure might feel like, imagine a young woman we'll call Miriam, quiet, diligent, never a moment of trouble. During the bishop's visit, when a question about bodily alterations hung in the air, she might not say yes, she might not say no. Perhaps she simply lifts the hem of her long dress, just an inch, exposes the top of her wool stocking, then pulls it down, a flash of shin, smooth, bare skin where there might have been dark hair. The room goes utterly cold. Her mother begins to weep, not for the act itself, but for the public consequence now unavoidable. Her father stares at the floor as if the devil himself had just walked through the door, and the girl simply stands there. Showing them would be louder than any confession. She would seem to be saying, "This is my body, I live in it. You make the rules, but you don't know the half of it." In a scenario like this, what follows might not be discipline for shaving. The shaving would merely be a gateway charge. The formal accusation could become prideful rebellion and deceit. Because she'd been doing it privately for years, the consequences would play out while she sat alone at meals, the community waiting for her spirit to break. So do Amish women shave their legs in secret? The answer isn't a simple yes or no that applies everywhere. In some communities, in some families, under certain circumstances, the answer is a whispered yes passed through generations of wash cellars and dark bedrooms. A yes that carries the weight of cold blades, stinging skin, and a hidden sisterhood no. Ordnung can fully extinguish. In other households, the question may never arise at all. That variation is precisely what makes the topic so revealing. The deeper story isn't about grooming. It's about what happens when a woman's private relationship with her own body collides with a system that regulates nearly everything. The very attempt to control something so personal is what gives the razor its edge. And if you think private grooming reveals the tension between Amish rules and personal choice, wait until you see what happens when teenagers reach Rumspringa, because that's where the line between obedience and freedom becomes even harder to understand. That video is on your screen right now.